Listen to this sound. In the late 1990s, this simple four-note chime was the undisputed heartbeat of the global economy. It didn't just mean your computer was turning on, it meant that one company, operating out of Santa Clara, California, held an absolute, terrifying monopoly over human progress. They manufactured the brain of every PC, every server, and every data center on Earth. They were not just a tech company, they were the physical infrastructure of the digital age. At their peak, their margins were untouchable. Their engineers were gods, and their executives believed that their reign would last forever. But today, the king is bleeding out. They missed the mobile revolution. They missed the artificial intelligence boom, and they allowed a relatively unknown factory in Taiwan to steal the most critical supply chain of the 21st century right out from under them. This is not a story about technology evolving too fast. This is a story about corporate hubris, about what happens when brilliant engineers are replaced by Wall Street bean counters. This is the financial autopsy of Intel, and how the pride of American innovation was destroyed from the inside out. To understand the magnitude of Intel's collapse, you have to understand how they built their empire. Under the legendary leadership of CEO Andy Grove, Intel operated under a ruthless internal philosophy. Only the paranoid survive. Grove understood that in the semiconductor business, standing still for even 6 months meant total annihilation. They engineered a flawless execution strategy known as the tick-tock model. One year, they would shrink the manufacturing process, the tick. The next year, they would introduce a completely new microarchitecture, the tock. It was an unstoppable, metronomic rhythm of innovation that suffocated their competitors. Advanced Micro Devices, or AMD, was reduced to fighting for the budget scraps. By the 2000s, Intel practically owned the world. Intel's ultimate weapon was its business model. They were an integrated device manufacturer, or IDM. This meant they designed their own chips and they manufactured them in their own multi-billion-dollar fabrication plants known as fabs. Because they controlled both the recipe and the kitchen, they could optimize performance to a degree nobody else could match. But this massive strength was about to become their fatal weakness. The arrogance began quietly. In 2005, Steve Jobs knocked on Intel's door. Apple was secretly developing a revolutionary new device that would eventually be called the iPhone. Jobs wanted Intel to manufacture the processors for it. It was the opportunity of a lifetime. The chance to establish a monopoly in the next era of computing. But Intel's CEO at the time, Paul Otellini, looked at the spreadsheets and said no. He calculated that the iPhone would not sell enough units to justify the heavy research and development costs. Furthermore, mobile chips had terrible profit margins compared to Intel's massive server processors. Intel was addicted to high margins. They refused to get out of bed for anything less than a 50% return. That single decision triggered a catastrophic butterfly effect. Forced to look elsewhere, Apple turned to an alternative chip architecture called ARM and outsourced the actual physical manufacturing to Asian foundries. When the iPhone launched and sold billions of units, it created an entire ecosystem of mobile computing that Intel was completely locked out of. The mobile revolution happened, and the king of silicon wasn't even invited to the party. While Intel was busy counting the cash from its PC monopoly, a quiet revolution was happening in Taiwan. A man named Morris Chang had founded TSMC, the Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company. Chang introduced a concept that Wall Street initially thought was absurd: the pure play foundry. TSMC would not design any chips. They would not compete with their customers. They would strictly focus on being the ultimate, most advanced manufacturing factory on Earth. This allowed brilliant engineers anywhere in the world to start a chip company without needing $10 billion to build a factory. Companies like NVIDIA, AMD, and Qualcomm became fabless. They designed the brains, and TSMC built the muscle. Intel executives laughed at TSMC, viewing them as a contract manufacturer for cheap electronics. What Intel failed to grasp was the brutal mathematics of economies of scale. Because TSMC was manufacturing chips for Apple, AMD, and dozens of others simultaneously, their production volume became exponentially larger than Intel's. And in the semiconductor industry, volume equals data, and data equals perfection. By the 2010s, the paranoia that Andy Grove instilled was entirely dead. Intel was no longer run by engineers obsessed with pushing the laws of physics. It was run by MBAs and financial engineers obsessed with pushing the stock price. Instead of aggressively reinvesting their massive profits into next-generation manufacturing, the board approved tens of billions of dollars in stock buybacks to artificially inflate their executive bonuses. The financialization of the company directly resulted in the darkest chapter in Intel's history, the 10-nanometer disaster. Shrinking the transistors on a chip to the atomic level requires flawless engineering, but Intel's culture had become highly bureaucratic and deeply toxic. Internal teams hid failures from management. When the 10-nanometer manufacturing process repeatedly failed, executives outright lied to investors, promising it was just around the corner. The delay wasn't just a few months, it lasted for years. The legendary TikTok model was completely shattered. Intel was stuck selling older, hotter, and less efficient processors while the rest of the world moved forward. The fortress walls were finally breached, and the barbarians were at the gates. For decades, AMD had been Intel's punching bag, but under the brilliant engineering leadership of their new CEO, Dr. Lisa Su, AMD executed a masterful flanking maneuver. Knowing they could never outspend Intel on factories, AMD partnered entirely with TSMC. TSMC had surpassed Intel in manufacturing technology, meaning AMD was suddenly selling faster, cooler, and cheaper processors than the monopoly. The ultimate humiliation had begun. A quick pause. If you want to structure your portfolio with the same cold, calculated precision as the institutions we cover, click the link in the description. I've just unlocked our internal Notion system, the Seer Capital Portfolio Tracker. It includes our strict due diligence protocol and the exact decision logbook we use to eliminate emotional trading. Get your free access right now. And let's get back to today's case. Losing the CPU crown to AMD was a nightmare. But Intel's most catastrophic failure was a complete inability to foresee the next epoch of computing: artificial intelligence. Intel built CPUs, central processing units. They are fantastic for running sequential tasks like operating a computer or loading a spreadsheet. But AI doesn't run in a straight line. Training massive neural networks requires processing millions of calculations simultaneously. For that, you need a GPU, a graphics processing unit. And the undisputed king of GPUs was a company led by a man in a leather jacket, Jensen Huang of NVIDIA. In the 2000s, Intel management viewed graphics cards as a niche toy for video gamers. They ignored NVIDIA. When the AI boom ignited, driven by models like ChatGPT, data centers stopped buying Intel's expensive CPUs and diverted their entire capital budgets to buy hundreds of thousands of NVIDIA GPUs. NVIDIA's chips became the new oil of the global economy, and Intel had absolutely nothing to sell. As if the bleeding wasn't bad enough, the final nail in the coffin came from Cupertino. For 15 years, Intel processors were the engine inside every Apple Mac. But Apple had grown tired of Intel's delays, overheating chips, and broken promises. In 2020, Tim Cook took the stage and announced Apple Silicon. Apple had secretly designed their own ARM-based processors, manufactured by TSMC. The new M1 chip absolutely obliterated Intel's best processors in both speed and battery life. It was a public execution. The most prestigious consumer brand on Earth had just fired Intel, proving to the world that the Intel architecture was no longer a requirement for high-end computing. Panicking as their market cap collapsed, the board of directors finally fired the financial managers. In 2021, they brought back Pat Gelsinger as CEO. Gelsinger was a hardcore engineer, a protege of Andy Grove, and the man who originally designed some of Intel's greatest chips. Wall Street hoped he could perform a miracle. Gelsinger looked at the wreckage and realized that catching TSMC was a matter of national security. He announced IDM 2.0, a suicidal, highly aggressive strategy to not only fix their own chips, but to open up Intel's factories to manufacture chips for other companies. Intel was essentially going to try and become an American TSMC. But the capital expenditure required to build leading-edge foundries is terrifying. A single modern EUV lithography machine from ASML costs hundreds of millions of dollars. A new fab costs over $20 billion. Intel is burning through cash at an unprecedented rate, severely cutting dividends and laying off thousands of employees just to fund the construction of these new plants. Washington, D.C. suddenly woke up to a terrifying reality. 90% of the world's most advanced microchips are manufactured in Taiwan, an island constantly threatened by the Chinese military. If TSMC goes offline, the American economy halts. Desperate to bring silicon manufacturing back to domestic soil, the US government passed the CHIPS Act, essentially handing Intel billions of dollars in taxpayer subsidies as a geopolitical bailout. But government money cannot buy corporate agility. The brutal math of the stock market tells the real story. Today, TSMC is valued at nearly $1 trillion. NVIDIA has touched $3 trillion, making it one of the most valuable entities in human history. And Intel? The former king of Silicon Valley has been decimated, fighting to maintain a valuation barely a fraction of its rivals. Intel is the ultimate case study in the danger of financialization. They protected their profit margins today at the expense of their existence tomorrow. They allowed accountants to override engineers in a business governed by quantum physics. You cannot execute stock buybacks to fix a broken manufacturing process. The hegemony of Intel Inside is dead. Whether Pat Gelsinger can rebuild the foundries and save the company remains one of the greatest gambles in corporate history. But the lesson is permanent. In the architecture of modern wealth, arrogance is the most expensive liability on the balance sheet. If you found this institutional breakdown valuable, subscribe to Sir Capital. We document the macro shifts and corporate warfare shaping the global economy. And remember to click the link in the description to access our internal portfolio tracker. Until next time.